Hey guys, Teacher here and welcome back to another video. Currently, me and a few others are working on one of the biggest medieval fantasy worlds in Minecraft, called Phytor. This world includes cities, villages, castles and much more, spanning over 200 million blocks. In the last building episode we took on the Mediterranean harbor town of Novoport, which did incredibly well. Today we are moving to the other side of our continent, back in the northernmost region of the cliffs, where we also built a little hot spring village of Hedderfleet last year. In this episode I spent 100 days building the small port village of Frost Bay and its mighty keep. Today's build is going to include several buildings, including fisheries, loggers, warehouses and a lighthouse, some of them located on a few islands off the coast, a large main building serving as the settlement's centerpiece, a bunch of docks and ships, a gigantic medieval elevator system along the cliffs, a small shrine located within the hills, and finally a sturdy keep looking over the village and bay from a southern hill. That is once again a lot, but I mean, since this is the last speed build of 2022, we should not disappoint, right? Before we start, I will give away this build to 5 lucky subscribers on the 25th of December. To find out how, make sure you stay tuned to the end. Of course, the village of Frost Bay and its castle, as well as lots of other builds, are already available on my Patreon. Link in the description. Anyway, enough talking, let's get to building. We are going to start off this holiday themed speed build with some planning. The plan was to add a handful of houses down the cliffs, including a fisherman, small tavern, warehouse and town hall. Off the coast I would also plan out a few buildings, including a lighthouse on some of the rocky isles. As I had mentioned earlier, I was also going to add a huge elevator on the cliffside, which is going to be used by the inhabitants for transport and travel. The castle on the other hand was going to be located up the cliffs on a southern hill, but I will go more into detail about the keep later. After that, it was time for the terraforming. As always, the terrain was once again absolutely horrible, so I had to make a few adjustments in order to make it more suitable for building. I tried to flatten out as much land as possible, but since the elevation was quite steep, that was not an easy task. So I was forced to create my own kind of platforms to build on. In order to make them blend in with the surroundings, I added rocky ridges on the sides with pathways zigzagging from one platform to the other. Now that that's all done, we can finally start building. The building style is going to be quite similar to that of the town of Hedderfleet, but of course we need to keep each build original, so I did make some changes to the design. I once again used spruce wood for the base, but instead of stone I used oak wood for the walls and deep slate and dark oak wood for the roofs instead of birch. And of course these houses were also going to have the notable Viking styled horns on each side. The village of Frost Bay is located only several miles away from Hedderfleet, along the frozen shore, which is actually the name given to the entire shore of the cliffs because throughout the entire year it is at least partially frozen. The cliffs is the northernmost region of Phytor and with that also the coldest. Although the temperatures can drop far below zero, it is not as sparsely populated as you might expect. There are countless settlements located on the peninsula, even including 2 cities, all connected with each other by a well-maintained infrastructure. The main building of Frost Bay is located on a slightly higher spot in the center of the village, from which it looks over the rest of the settlement. This is also where important meetings are held and agreements regarding the port and its trade are made. I once again wanted to add as much detail to this build as possible, make it look like as if there is something to see no matter where you look. This included the docks, a few Viking themed ships and many other details. I even decided to build a few custom orcas in the bay, which didn't go very well, so I'm gonna give some credit to this guy. The orcas turned out to be a great addition to the build, since Frostbay is well known in the region for having the best whale hunters, which in comparison to most other regions of Phytor really is an important food source here. Next up, I started building the elevators. The people of Frostbay use these to transport goods from the town below to nearby settlements, as well as the other way around. These elevator systems turn out to be of great importance to the people of this region because climbing the tall hills is an almost impossible job. I might also be a little bit too lazy to build an entire pathway up the hills, but I believe this also gives the village a very unique and original aspect. The people in the cliffs follow the Frozen Lord, a religion which is only still active in the northern regions of Phytor. They believe that there is a higher entity that has control over the seasons and watches over the colder lands and seas. When the people would sin too much or ignore this entity, they would be punished with stronger and longer winters. In order to avoid this, the people do daily offerings to the Frozen Lord at their temples and shrines. Each year, the Cliffmen celebrate the start of spring with huge bonfires to show off their gratitude to the Frozen Lord. Down the cliffs there was only one thing left to do for the village, which would be the lighthouse and smaller buildings located on the rocky islands. Now that Frostbay itself is finished, it is time for the last part of this episode, the Castle of Snowspear. For this castle, I wanted to go for something very original, a design that is nowhere similar to our other castles that we have built on this map. When I went on Google for some inspiration, I found this vague image of the castle on Bear Island in Game of Thrones, which I decided was going to be my partial inspiration for this build. I was going to start off with the gate, followed by the walls, courtyard and more significant structures, to then finish up with the main keep, which I promise is going to be like no other structure I have built yet. Just as the village of Heatherfleet from last year's Nordic team speed build, Frostbay is also ruled over by House Eastmeyer. The Eastmeyers rule over both villages and the surrounding area from the castle of Snowspear, which is located on a tall hill close to the border of the only neighboring region called Gletscher. The location of the castle is actually perfect for both royal as well as military purposes. The castle can be seen from very far away, no matter from what direction you are traveling. The keep is called Snowspear because of the many spike-like towers the structure has, which are often covered in a white layer of thick snow. Because you know, it snows a lot here. I am giving away this castle and village to 5 lucky subscribers on the 25th of December. All you have to do to participate is subscribe, leave a like on the video and comment what type of build you would like to see me do next year. Although this build is of course also already available on my Patreon. Link in the description. To make the build more interesting to explore, we have included full interior as well as hidden temp presents throughout the map. I am wondering if you could find them all. Before 2023 begins, I will upload one more video counting down our favorite builds of 2022 to sum up this amazing year. Also, the next speed build, which I will start working on in January, is going to be one of the biggest yet. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Anyway guys, have a wonderful Christmas and I see you next time. Bye bye.